The Buccaneers won the coin toss and won the football to start the game. Let's head quickly to the sidelines. Dan Lucas, the Bucs injury report, brought to you by Florida Hospital, the exclusive hospital of the Tampa Bay Bucs. Dan?
Good evening, Chris. The injuries tonight, and there's some big ones on the last night. Daquan Bowers with the groin, Will Golston with the shoulder, and then the two safeties battling it out. Major Wright with the back, Bradley McDougald, who injured his knee last week in Buffalo. Chris?
All right, thanks, Dan. I look forward to hearing from you at halftime. You'll also be chatting with head coach Lovie Smith as you see those players injured, which will figure in some of the roster moves. Again, it's down to 53 and a 10-player practice squad for the first time come Saturday. These two teams will meet November 16th in Washington when it'll be a regular season meeting between Lovie Smith and Jay Gruden. There is a Gruden roaming the sidelines here at Raymond James Stadium. Just turned 47 since taking over his first head coaching job in the NFL, the former Cincinnati offensive coordinator. Zach Hocker ready to kick off for the fourth time in the last 4 years. Redskins and Bucs in the preseason. Solomon Patton standing in the end zone. Steps up and a few yards deep, has it. Yeah, excellent special teams coverage, and that has been an issue, or was last year for the Redskins, their punt coverage unit. As Solomon Patton is stopped, he has won the return job for the moment on punts and kickoffs. Mike Glennon will start on offense. Josh McCown, of course, having the terrific preseason game last week against Buffalo after a slow start. Bobby Rainey in the backfield with Doug Martin, the opening day starter, given the evening off. And Rainey carries through a big hole, gets up across the 25-yard line.
It'll be interesting today, Chris, to see how many carries Bobby Rainey gets, or if they give a lot of this workload to Jeff Demps. Bobby Rainey's an important player on their team.
Yeah, let's take a look at the starting lineups brought to you by Helicon Property Restoration. We keep our promises, and again, a lot of these are the backup players, and some, as Rondé pointed out, are battling for a roster spot. On that offensive line, Josh Allen, the left guard, getting a lot of praise from the team, who can also play center. On second down, Glennon with time and completes the pass just short of the 30-yard line. But Lonnie Pryor, the one-time Florida State Seminole from Okeechobee, Florida, has a first down for the Buccaneers. Let's take a look at the Helicon starting lineup on defense for the Washington Redskins. Jim Haslett, the coordinator.
Haslett has this defense playing pretty well this preseason. You see Adam Hayward there, longtime Buccaneers, been here a long time. This kid Bashad Breeland, keep an eye on him. If you're a Redskins fan, this guy's shown up so far in the preseason.
From the 29-yard line, on first down, it's Rainey again. And works his way for a couple. We'll check the receiver battle behind the starters of Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans, the rookie and first-round pick. It looks like Louis Murphy and Chris Owusu are in a bit of a kind of a tight struggle. Robert Huron, the rookie who you've liked so much, the sixth-round draft pick, Solomon Patton, they seem to be in pretty good shape on this roster.
Louis Murphy and Chris Owusu are the two that we'll be watching most closely tonight. Both of them have had good camps. I think Louis Murphy's done a little bit better job, though, if you ask me.
On second down, Glennon fires in the area of Murphy and incomplete. It'll be third down at about 6. It was interesting that Lovie Smith also wanted to take the ball, a departure from what he'll do during the regular season to start, to give his offense and Mike Glennon a chance to get going early.
Well, you know, this new staff, he's preached to me a lot about trying to find the right situations in games and in practices, and you just don't get an opportunity to hit them all. So getting the ball to start the game is one situation where he had control over, and he took advantage of that today.
We may see some fourth down gambles or two-point conversion tries. Jeff Demps checks in at running back on 3rd and 6. Four-man rush. Glennon has a moment and completes the pass for the first down across the 40 to Louis Murphy. Murphy, the former Lakewood High star from St. Petersburg and a Florida Gator.
That's the Mike Glennon that we were used to last year when he was playing well, taking his time in the pocket here, finding the guy I think he was looking for originally there in Louis Murphy on that crossing route to get that first down. Now this competition between him and Owusu, to me, gets real exciting today, because unlike Lewis Murphy, Wusu is eligible for the practice squad, so he's working on 2 fronts here.
The pitch to Bobby Rainey, and he will fight to get back to the line of scrimmage. Russell Shepard has apparently, as a gunner and special teams player, you've been raving about him in the preseason as a backup receiver, has impressed enough to, at least at the moment, looks like he's made the squad. And of course, with Tim Wright being dealt the 3 tight ends behind Austin Safarian Jenkins, Brandon Myers, and Luke Stocker. And Cameron Brate also practice squad eligible. As Lovie Smith was saying, it's a big difference this year to have a couple extra players to put there.
Well, I think Luke Stocker has done a lot to make this team. He's really impressed this squad. And Cameron Brate, they're going to keep 4 tight ends, but I believe he'll be another guy that might end up on the practice squad for this Bucs team.
Rainey carries. Here comes a flag on 2nd down. I was just going to point out how we hadn't had any penalties here in the preseason to start this game. But the Bucs have been rather successful on their 1st down attempts.
Holding. Offense. Number 79. That penalty is declined. The result of the play is 3rd down.
First-year referee Craig Ralstad calling out Jamon Meredith.
You know what? I think that's an interesting non-acceptance by Jay Gruden on the other sideline, and I'll tell you why after this.
Well, it puts Mike Lennon in a 3rd and 12. 3 wide receivers with Rainey the back. And a delay to Rainey that'll bring up 4th down. Gabe Miller making the tackle.
Jay's over there saying, "What time was our flight leave for Washington?"
Just want to get out of here without any
no injuries, no clock stoppage. This may be one of those games where we see a lot of unconventional play calling or whatnot because these teams know that this is the last preseason game. We're only getting an extended look at some young guys. But get Keenan out here. We know who he is.
Michael Keenan, the punter. We may see him on some extra points as well. Richard Crawford from his 12-yard line. And knocked down right away. Excellent special teams play. Keith Tandy, the backup defensive back, making the stop. The Redskins will touch the football for the first time on offense. Scoreless here in the opening quarter. Redskins will take over on offense for the first time. We're scoreless here at Raymond James Stadium. And closed captioning brought to you by McDonald's new jalapeno double burger. Now just $2 for a limited time. 93 degrees and clear here in Tampa.
It's really a nice night, isn't it, Chris?
It's cooler than what it will be a week from Sunday when the Panthers are here for the regular season. And there's Colt McCoy, the backup to Kirk Cousins, who's the backup to Robert Griffin III. Evan Royster, the back. And Royster, the carry, works his way up to the 15-yard line. Let's take a look at the starting lineups brought to you by Helicon Property Restoration. We keep our promises, and the Redskin offense will be very different when they start, except Darrell Young, the fullback, will be there for Alfred Morris, the former Florida Atlantic star.
They got a big running back battle on their team. About 3 or 4 guys on that roster fighting for that one spot. Morgan Moses, 3rd-round pick out of Virginia. Someone to take a look at right tackle over there for the Redskins.
And Ryan Grant, the rookie receiver from Tulane, has caught everything thrown in his direction this preseason. McCoy on 2nd down, open, and has the first down catch. Aldrick Robinson making the grab on our Helicon defensive lineup for the Buccaneers.
And we're going to see some different combination of guys, but guys we want to look at are these 2 guys right here at defensive end, as well as Larry English when he gets into the football game. In linebacker, Dane Fletcher, we're going to see a lot from him today. Coach said he might even do some long snapping just in case. And we'll see a bunch of guys out at corner. Quentin Pointer, who's been their nickelback, backup nickelback, will get some looks. Anthony Gator is out there right now.
Pointer will place it corner as well. Royster carries and goes nowhere. The Bucs have been tremendous stopping the run in this preseason. No matter what teams have tried to do, Jacksonville, Miami, Buffalo, they just have not been able to run the football.
It's been a product of what they have up front. You know, Joe Cullen, their defensive line coach, is really preaching, getting off the football and getting this gap penetration. But there you just see Danny Lansana, who got the start last week for Jonathan Casillas, who didn't make the trip up to Buffalo, make a good play in the backfield.
Jonathan Casillas is dressed and could play. He's been bothered by a bit of a sore knee as well. On 2nd down, McCoy airing it out down the sideline and caught out of bounds. Again, it was Aldrick Robinson. Anthony Gator was running back there with him. It'll bring up a third down. The good news for the Bucs is Alteron Werner and Mike Jenkins. You got the impression from head coach Lovie Smith that they'll be okay to go. We haven't seen them both on the field in a game during the preseason, but when it counts against Carolina, they should be out there.
They'll definitely be out there, I think. It's important for guys like Anthony Gator, who we see right there, to get some good stuff on tape. He's been around this organization for a couple of years, been hit with the injury bug a bunch, but he's getting a big opportunity tonight to show these coaches, these new coaches, what he has.
Chris Thompson in at running back, 3rd and long. Stepping up, McCoy throws, completes at the 30 to Thompson, and it'll be 4th down. Thompson, the former Florida State star, missed a couple of games with an ankle injury as Casillas is in on the play.
Yeah, Casillas and Danny Lansana out on the field there, that base defense.
And Jonathan Casillas had the disciplinary action, but no grudge held. Lovie says, hey, we cleared it up. It's a fresh start. Let's move forward.
Well, I thought it was good of him last week to come out and admit that he was wrong. Obviously, you got a new staff. You're trying to make an impression. And what he did last week was not very favorable for him. So be contrite in his apology was, I think, really important.
Solomon Patton from inside the Buccaneer 10. Works that up across the 17, 18-yard line, where the Bucs will take over for the second time on offense. Mike Glennon leading the offense after the defense does its job. Tonight's game brought to you in spectacular high definition by Bright House Networks, the most preferred TV provider in Tampa Bay. And when Rondé Barber said be like Mike in his keys to the game, he went from Mike Glennon to Mike Kafka. Mike Kafka, who takes over for Glennon after that quick series, 6 of 18 in the preseason. He is practice squad eligible as the Bucs are likely to keep 2 quarterbacks on the active roster. Jeff Demps is in at running back. On 1st down from inside their own 20. Demps hit hard. Marcus Arroyo, the 34-year-old quarterback coach of the Bucs, calling the plays from down on the sideline for offensive coordinator Jeff Tedford, who recently had a procedure, and according to head coach Lovie Smith, is doing well. And Jeff Tedford himself will describe the procedure when he comes back, and they're hopeful that he will be back very soon and part of the organization.
Well, this is a good test run for these guys, assuming that Jeff Tedford's not back next week. But Lovie told us that it's not just going to be Marcus Arroyo making these calls. It's going to be by committee. You have some other guys that have some experience down there that will help him in the play calling tonight.
Going to throw. He's buried inside the 10. The pass rush swarming in. Washington gets an early sack led by Clifton Gathers, who's 6'8", the former South Carolina Gamecock, who's been around with Miami and Seattle, the Eagles.
See Mike Kafka setting up to throw deep here and just get bunched up inside there. Those offensive guards struggling a little bit. These second and third team guys, one of them's got to win a spot. We're going to see tonight which one performs best, because that's probably what the biggest question left of this offensive unit.
And Marcus Arroyo, who did call plays for a year at Southern Miss as the offensive coordinator, calls Jeff Demp's number here. Another 3rd down run. He coached at San Jose State. Even at Prairie View, he briefly called plays there as well. And in a spot he's worked hand in hand, was the quarterback coach for Tedford when Jeff Tedford was the head coach at California. So that's something the Bucs will work on with all the other things going on as they get ready for the regular season. We won't see Logan Mankins tonight, but we will be talking about him. And General Manager Jason Light joining us live in the second half here on the Bucs broadcast and answer some of the questions that we have about some of the moves the Bucs have made. Richard Crawford from the 34 of Washington, and is knocked down just across the 40-yard line. Scoreless for the opening quarter, just over 6 minutes remaining. The Redskins have the football, no score here in Tampa Bay. Drinks all around, and they're probably already hydrating for next Sunday in that 4:25 kick against Carolina. We welcome you back. Ellen and Steve Harvey moving to News Channel 8. Watch September 8th for the premieres of Steve Harvey at 2, Ellen at 3, and you'll see it right here on News Channel 8. 42-yard line of Washington, best field position for either team so far in the scoreless opening quarter. Redskins coming in with a 2-1 record to wrap up the preseason. And Colt McCoy came in 10 of 50 with a couple of touchdowns in the preseason. He's throwing on 1st down and completing short to Logan Paulson. the backup tight end. They're really thrilled with Jordan Reed, who we won't see tonight, but the ex-Gator, who is the starting tight end on this team.
Before he got hurt last year, a couple of games that I did for Washington, he was looking to be one of the breakout rookies last year.
And Colt McCoy, an important game for him. They're likely to keep 3 quarterbacks in Washington. Former starter in Cleveland, briefly in San Francisco last year, as Evan Royster gets knocked down at the 47. It'll bring up 3rd down. Danny Lanzana coming over to make the play. Danny
Lanzana has been very active early in this game. Last week, you know, looking at that film, and he got the chance to start for Jonathan Casillas. He didn't have the type of game I think he was expecting himself to have after having such a good camp. He's got a lot of work left to do, but he's going to get a big opportunity tonight to show Lovie Smith what he can, and Hardy Nickerson what kind of player he can be when he gets full-time reps.
3rd down and 6 for Washington. That's Ryan Grant, the receiver in motion. McCoy, the quick throw is low for Grant, and it'll bring up 4th down. So the defensive unit, Anthony Gator, very active early, forces the punt.
Anthony Gator was playing safety some last week when they were short on numbers. I guess the more you can do. But Anthony is very athletic, very quick out on that corner. He made a nice play right there to get off on 3rd down.
Tress Way standing inside the 35 of Washington, ready to punt to Solomon Patton. Fair catch called for, and has it inside the 10-yard line. Solomon Patton, the former Florida Gator from Mobile, Alabama. Bucs on offense scoreless, so the opening quarter. Stay connected with news, weather, and sports with News Channel 8 and the News app. Just search WFLA on your app store and download it now. It's one more way that News Channel 8 is on your side. Rondé Barber, Dan Lucas down on the field, Chris Myers, and thanks for being with us throughout the preseason on the Buccaneers Television Network, WFLA News Channel 8, wherever you're watching on the affiliates of the NFL Network. We appreciate you tuning in. And there's Reshad Johnson, who they picked up recently. Didn't get to play last week, seeing his first action for the Buccaneers as Jeff Debs carries on 1st down.
I think it's a really important game for Reshad Johnson. The guy was in Kansas City last year, and the couple of plays, a couple of opportunities he got to play last year, he played well. But then they drafted Zach Fulton, and he became expendable, and we were able to pick him up when we traded Kelsey back to Kansas City.
He is 6'3", 315 pounds. We have an injured player on the field. We'll check on that in just a moment. Get complete Bucs coverage on Bucs Bonus with Dan Lucas every Saturday at 7 here on News Channel 8. See Dan at halftime with stats and highlights. Also an update from News Channel 8 in the newsroom, and our post-game coverage getting you ready for the regular season here. And the injured player for the Redskins, backup nose tackle Chris Neal, who appears to be holding his knee. He's been a terrific player for them, for a 7th-round draft pick from West Virginia. He's worked his way up, and an important part of their defensive plan.
It's be unfortunate for a guy like this, who they are definitely counting on to be the backup to Barry Cofield, to go down in the last preseason game. He's been on the field since we went to break, and you got to assume that this is something serious.
Jay Gruden, they acquired Jason Hatcher to add to the pass rush. Of course, the London Fletcher, the longtime linebacker, leader of the defense, has retired, and they're bringing out the cart. That's never a good sign, but at least Chris Neal is alert. Saw Alfred Morris coming out from over on the sideline to check on him to make sure he was all right. And we just said, Ronnie, that the Redskins were grateful that they didn't have any serious injuries during the preseason or training camp. I know the Bucs feel the same way, other than the Charlie Sims injury to the rookie running back. Fans appreciating the effort from Neal.
Well, we'll see a lot more Robert Thomas now, the rookie from Arkansas. He's a free agent. He's coming in the game now. Yeah, but this is never like to see that week 4 of the preseason, but it happens.
It could happen on a practice field, as we saw with Charles Sims, the Bucs running back.
Absolutely. A guy who they'll be sorely missing at the beginning of this season. It'll be interesting, Chris, to see what they decide to do with him on the roster, Charles Sims, I mean. They have that designation, that IR set to return, if he's used for that or if they just keep a spot on the roster for him.
Under 4.5 to play on the opening quarter on 2nd down 7. Kafka's throw is over the head of Lewis Murphy. It'll be 3rd down. Mike Kafka, and fans remember his performance in the Outback Bowl for Northwestern against Auburn. The sail's a little bit high. Threw for 532 yards and 49 completions.
He's a guy that's going to be helped significantly by this expansion of the practice squad to 10 players and adding another year of eligibility. I imagine that the Bucs will keep him around.
4 wide receivers here on 3rd and 7. Pass is thrown before the receiver even turned around. Cameron Brate, the tight end, lining up out as a receiver, and not an impressive series on offense. It'll be 4th down.
Yeah, I think this is just a function, Chris, of guys not having a lot of snaps together in games. Cameron Brate has been really the 5th tight end before Tim Wright left. Now he'll be the 4th guy, but that was just a back shoulder throw. They have to get on the sideline and get together, see if they can work that out for later in the game.
Michael Caden around the goal line, booms it. And Richard Crawford waving everybody away. What a Buccaneer roll. It's going to go all the way down to around the 25-yard line of Washington. A 64-yard punt from Michael Caden, if you include the roll. About 25 yards of that was roll, but the
it's one way to change field position.
That's it. He's ready for the regular season.
He is one of the better punters in the league. He's very versatile. As you know, if you're Buck fans, he also does the majority of the kickoffs during the season and takes some of that heat off the your place kicker, who will either be Connor Barth or Patrick Murray. We'll get down near the red zone. Hopefully we get a chance to heat this kicking competition up a little bit later.
And now on offense, Colt McCoy from the shotgun with Evan Royce to the back. McCoy has it. Throws open receiver. Sideline. Did he stay in bounds? Yes. Ryan Grant made the catch.
That was a really well-designed play into the cover 2 defense here. You're going to see a majority cover 2 from Tampa today. You see that play action sucks up a lot of the linebackers, and Keith Tandy's just a little bit late pushing his coverage over to that sideline. It's a good throw and catch there.
McCoy won an NCAA record 45 games in Texas. He was the Heisman Trophy runner-up in 2008. Dane Fletcher making the tackle on Royster. It'll bring up 2nd down.
Really good play by Dane Fletcher there, shooting through that offensive line, secure that tackle in the backfield. Just, we keep talking about how good the Bucs have been up front, but it really takes your second line guys to clean up a lot of the run game, and Dane Fletcher did a great job there.
Anthony Gator is at one corner for the Bucs. Quentin Pointer has played some corner tonight already from his nickelback spot. The screen, Royster is cut down in Buccaneer territory. That'll bring up a 3rd down. Khalil Glaude.
Yeah, Khalil Glaude made a great play there. That screen, coming through that screen, you get 2 offensive linemen pulling out in front of him. He's got to make one of them miss and still get on the tackle. That was an excellent play.
Chris Thompson at a running back on 3rd and 4. McCoy's throw on target for a 1st down. And into Buccaneer inside the 40 to Lee Doss, one of the reserve receivers.
One of the situations you got to win, no matter 1st, 2nd, or 3rd team, is 3rd down. The Bucs are in man-to-man here. You see him get caught up in that traffic. Keith Tandy was in man-to-man coverage there, and Lee Doss used it to his advantage. Create some space to get that 1st down.
A pickup of 12, and a luxury to have a guy like Colt McCoy as your 3rd-string quarterback. He's got experience running an offense in the NFL and having had success as Thompson carries. Now, Lovie Smith talked about at some point during a season you're going to end up using, you're going to get down to your fourth safety or your third cornerback, right? Your fourth cornerback. This is where these players shine.
Yeah, you know what they also need is another 3-tech. You see Ronald Talley right there. He looked just like Gerald McCoy has been all preseason. That quick explosion off the ball pushed that lineman into the backfield, completely destroyed that play. You know what they've been lacking so far is a backup to Gerald, because Daquan Bowers, who they were counting on to be that guy, has been hurt for the last 3 weeks.
Also, William Goldston injured as well. He figured in a starting role, or at least playing quite a bit. McCoy on the move and incomplete. Trying to get it to Aldrick Robinson.
Aldrick Robinson was number 11 last year. Somebody took that from him this year. Deshaun Jackson on the sideline for the Redskins, a huge pickup. Took number 11 from him. Just a note, side note, nothing important.
Well,
just for me, a chance for me to mention Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, I'm sure you love to line up against a guy like that. Well, they also added Andre Roberts from the Arizona Cardinals, who can help in the return game, and with Pierre Garçon and the veteran Santana Moss provided sticks. That's some depth at wide receiver for Washington.
They look really good at that position right now.
It's a third down play. McCoy fakes, is hit, then throws to Thompson, who fights his way near the first down, but where the official is pointing, they may either measure or he'll be a little bit short.
Well, here you go. I was talking in our open about how the Bucs are at a kicking competition. Well, so too are the Washington Redskins. Kai Forbath, who spent a year here preseason here before he went to Washington. A tight battle, I think, with Zach Hocker. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for these guys as well.
Lining up for what would be a 45-yard field goal try for Zach Hocker. It's Forbath, battling Hocker, and Forbath delivers. The former UCLA star, who, as you mentioned, was with the Bucs, and it was an area of strength, and Washington gobbled him up, and he's kicked well for them, but now being challenged by Hocker.
I think they like Hocker's leg strength a little bit. Unlike Tampa, who we have the luxury of having a guy like Michael Kanan who can kick off, Forbath does struggle from time to time getting the ball in and through the end zone. And nowadays, with that 5 extra yards that they put on a couple of years ago, every kick has been going through the end zone. And it's been kind of a point of contention if you're a Washington Redskins special teamer that you're having to cover so many kicks because he can't get it through the end zone.
They were one of the worst last year, the Redskins, in terms of punt coverage, giving up almost 17 yards of return in that area. There's Colt McCoy, who engineered the drive for Jay Gruden. Of course, Jay, a graduate of Chamberlain High School in Tampa, and an Arena League star.
Yeah, huge star. He was Arena League coach and his brother John's assistant while I was here in Tampa. And it was Jay is not his brother. I'll tell you that. They are both great coaches in their own right. But totally different personalities.
And here's a look at the GMC scoring drive. We are professional grade, engineered by Colt McCoy, and Forbath with the 45-yarder. And kicking off is Forbath. Jeff Demps is now back to return deep in the end zone, and he's going to bring it out. He hesitated. Maybe that was intentional, but knocked down across the 18-yard line by former Buccaneer E.J. Biggers. You played with him in the secondary.
Yeah, I did. E.J.'s taken on a big role in Washington. He's played both corner and safety. He's out there at corner today. You know, when our ex-head coach, Raheem Morris, went over to be the DB coach there, and EJ became a free agent, he was, I think, the first visit that he took, and he signed him that day. EJ is very versatile.
A backup for D'Angelo Hall, the veteran corner, who will be a regular season starter for the Redskins. A ball spotted at the 17. 35 seconds remaining here in the opening quarter. Demps, the running back. Mike Kafka came in for Mike Glennon, who started at quarterback for the Bucs. Kafka to throw, and he loses the football. It is a fumble football. Gabe Miller has it for Washington. And the Redskins take over on the takeaway at the 3-yard line.
Marcus Arroyo and his staff are calling plays here, trying to get this offense going a little bit. It's been really stagnant so far today. Try to get him out of the pocket. And he had a guy in the flat, but he just closed the space on him so fast there before he even got a chance to let that go. He gets the sack fumble. And you're trying to make this team, you're trying to secure your spot. You don't want to make these mistakes down here in the red zone. This is crucial mistake. the Bucs. He should have just got rid of that thing, put it out of bounds.
Gabe Miller, reserve linebacker. He caused the fumble and came up with the takeaway. Kind of thing that impresses regardless of who or where you're playing. Redskins with a 1st and goal, and Ryan Grant splits out to the top of your screen. Chris Thompson the back. And Thompson slips a tackle and is knocked down inside the 2.
That's the second big time penetration we've seen from Ronald Talley in the past 2 series. From just get off the ball there before he even gets a chance to get blocked and really messes up that play for the Redskins. This is a great opportunity, though, for Tampa Bay for some situational football. Getting in the red zone, seeing if they can get a stop here.
That's the end of the first quarter of the Havertys scoreboard. The Redskins lead the Bucs 3-0. Bring your vision to life at Havertys.com. Havertys, discover something you. Rondé Barber, Dan Lucas on the field. Chris Myers, the Redskins with a 3-0 lead to begin the second quarter and trying to get more after the takeaway. Chris Thompson at a running back. End zone throw. Caught. Touchdown. Ryan Grant.
Kip Edwards out there in coverage on Ryan Grant. Bucs like to play a lot of man-to-man down here to get that extra guy in the box, but it exposes your corners a little bit to these type of plays, that jump ball, back shoulder type throw. And Colt McCoy made a great throw there, put it in the only place that Ryan Grant could get it, and Kip Edwards just wasn't long enough to make a play on it.
Grant showing the good hands that the Redskins had talked about, the rookie from Tulane, and then kept his feet in place. Zach Cocker will try the extra point after it was Forbath who kicked the field goal. 2-yard touchdown toss from Colt McCoy to Ryan Grant, and now it's 10-0 Washington. Now let's take a look at the GMC scoring drive, professional grade. It came after the lost football from Mike Kafka when Gabe Miller took it away, recovered it. And that's why the Redskins only had to go a couple of yards.
Yeah, you get these opportunities, and we used to call them sudden change opportunities when the offense turned the ball over. It was an opportunity for your defense to go out there and get a stop, try to force them into a field goal opportunity, but they missed it. Missed that opportunity with that good throw and catch by Colt McCoy.
Well, let's check Rondé on the Hyundai first quarter stats, brought to you by Suncoast Hyundai dealers. Discover the completely redesigned 2015 Hyundai Sonata at your Suncoast Hyundai dealers today.
Yeah, it doesn't look good right now if you're the Bucs in the first quarter. There's -8 passing yards, largely a part of those sacks and no completions by the quarterback. But you see that 1 rushing yard for the Washington Redskins offense. That is a positive for this defense, because we haven't yet talked about some of these backups other than Ronald Talley, but I'm hoping we get some passing plays out of this Redskins offense so we can see Larry English and Scott Solomon, Stephen Means get a chance to rush the quarterback.
3 players battling for 2 spots. Solomon Patton, 7 yards deep in the end zone, is coming out, and the Redskins smother him short of the 12-yard line. Hope to see Solomon Patton play some at wide receiver for the Bucs. Again, behind Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans, Robert Haran, the rookie, and Solomon Patton, Russell Shepard. Looks like they've all clicked. So it's Chris Owusu and Lewis Murphy fighting over a spot. Mike James, the running back from Miami, who was injured in the preseason, is dressed unlikely to play. And he's a guy who will figure with Bobby Rennie and Doug Martin in the regular season.
Yeah, he had his one opportunity, or a couple opportunities last year. I think he showed everybody what he had.
Robert Haran lines up at the bottom of your screen. Jeff Demps gets the carry. Slips his way across the 16, 17-yard line.
You know, it's interesting, these play calls for Jeff Demps, everything off tackle. I'm sure they're not trying to get too much involved into a game plan, but trying to discern a role for this kid is hard. He's not a big kid, but he is. I mean, we got to say he's the fastest guy in the NFL.
Track star, can't argue with that.
Track star. But finding a way to utilize him on offense has been a problem so far this year, or this preseason. These extended carries as a true running back just haven't really netted much for him so far.
Puts a move on and gets knocked out across the 20. Jeff Demps earned a silver medal in the 2012 Olympics in Beijing, part of the 4x100 relay, but acquired last April from New England in the LeGarrette Blount trade. Boy, the Patriots and Bucs have worked some deals. More recently, Tim Wright for the Logan Mankins, the Pro Bowler, and a 4th-round draft pick in the deal.
Well, he's definitely interesting. Just the prospect of what he could be. Multi-purpose, multi-use kind of guy out of the backfield. They originally wanted him to be able to return kicks and punts, but he doesn't have the hands yet to be able to do that. Something he's going to have to work on. So, if you're me, I definitely look at him as a developmental guy on the practice squad for this team.
On 3rd and 2, can he get the first of that speed? That's something that the Bucs want to see more of when he's in pads on the field. It just doesn't show up enough. Trenton Robinson with a tackle, and it'll be 4th down.
Yeah, good play there by Trenton Robinson, but hand that ball off to a guy that's got a silver medal. You think he beats him to the corner.
That's
right?
great. It's a great point, Randy, about the practice squad. I mean, you think of guys like him and Mike Kafka you can develop, and Jeff Demps more committed now to football. He's admitted that in the previous year he had track and Olympics on his mind as well. I'm sure that's what they're discussing about that. You got to get that first down. All he needed was 2 yards. Kanan. Richard Crawford from the 39 of Washington. A swarm of Bucs have to be happy with the special teams work. Washington on offense, they have a 10-0 lead in the 2nd quarter of the 4th preseason game on the Bucs television network. From the 39-yard line of Washington, Redskins with a 10-0 lead. Colt McCoy, who's gone the entire way at quarterback, working against the Bucs defense. Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator for Lovie Smith, and we certainly send our best to Jeff Tedford. Get well soon. Marcus Arroyo calling the plays from down on the field after the procedure that, according to Coach Lovie Smith, has gone well for Jeff Tedford. Meanwhile, the Redskins and Jake Gruden winning the early battle here. Silas Redd with the catch and gets across the 46-yard line. Let's head down to the sideline. Check in with Dan Lucas, who's got a guest. Dan?
Hi, Chris. Standing here with the big left tackle, Anthony Collins. And, the offensive line, Anthony, you guys all camp, preseason, you were in the spotlight. When's the last time you spent that much time in the spotlight on the O-line?
I was born in the spotlight, so I was used to it.
Talk about this unit. I mean, this was basically scrapped and started over with the exception of DeMar Dotson. You come in here, it's all strange faces, but how quickly have you guys come together?
Very quickly. We don't have no time to waste. The game is next week. We needed the offseason, we needed the preseason, and now we got Logan Mankins, a Pro Bowl, All-Pro player. It's the time to play.
What were your thoughts when the Logan Mankins trade was announced? I found it interesting that the players said we really were paying attention to the television. That's how we really found out about this.
Well, yeah, I don't know nothing about no television. I know, Coach came up to me and told me, hey, we got Logan Mankins in town. And I said, hey, we needed him. It's always good to have an all-pro player, man, and Logan seemed real cool, man, so I can't wait to play outside of him.
When you got here, you had a friend and a teammate, Michael Johnson, from your Bengals days. Is that a nice, familiar face when you get to new surroundings?
Yeah, it feels good to have somebody back at home, man, to come down here with me, man, and play ball. So we know we could turn each other notches, man, so we get the job done out here in Tampa Bay.
All right, Anthony, thank you so much for your time. Good luck this season.
No problem, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Chris.
Thanks, Dan. Born in the spotlight with that neat Buccaneer hat. Can he wear that a week from Sunday against Carolina?
We might need some.
Very stylish here after the penalty. Backs up McCoy. He's on the run and takes it up near midfield.
We got both Scott Solomon and Larry English in the game now. So if we get some passing situations, I'm going to be paying attention. See which one of these guys really gets after the quarterback here.
So the Offensive Washington with a fresh set of downs. And the Buccaneer offense non-existent so far in the first half. Silas Redd, the rookie running back from Southern California, carrying the load on this drive. And he gets the carry. I want to talk a little more about Logan Mankins because it kind of shocked the industry here. I mean, Bill Belichick speaking very highly, glowingly of, one of the best players he's ever coached. The guy's been a winner, first-round draft pick. And somehow the Bucs get him for a backup tight end in a fourth-round draft pick.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if it was about money up there to get rid of a guy with that kind of pedigree. We'll gladly take him here in Tampa. You kidding me? It was the narrative all off-season and preseason. So to get a guy of that caliber here is outstanding for us. But I'm sure he was a little shell-shocked even by the trade.
Flag down, McCoy, pass complete, out of the tackle, is moving Aldrick Robinson down the sideline. Check on that penalty. Logan Mankins did speak today to the local media, talking about moving his family, getting a house down here, and inserted into the starting lineup right away on the regular season opening Sunday.
Offside. Defense, number 74. That penalty will be declined. The result of the play is a first down.
Against Larry English, the call after a 25-yard pickup. Let's hear from Logan Mankins.
I've played a lot of games, pretty beat up, but I always felt my job as a football player is to be out there, and if I could play and help the team win still, then I'll be out there, and I think that's why a lot of people always respected me in New England.
And well respected here. Chris Thompson on first down. Logan Mankins, the story in New England was they had asked him maybe about taking a pay cut and didn't really want to do that. And when Jason Light, who will join us live in the second half, called to inquire about some of the other players that might be available, they said, hey, everybody is. And what a move to pull. I think the rest of the teams around the league said we didn't even know he was available because New England was not shopping Logan Mankins.
Hey, I'm glad nobody else knew he was available. We'll take him. But it's one of those things, Jason has mentioned it last week. He mentioned it a little bit this week in his press conferences that this is the time of year when you start talking.
McCoy's pass caught, knocked out at the 20 is Thompson.
Start talking with other GMs, other personnel guys around the team, just around the league, just to see how you can improve your team. And you talk about building from the bottom up. Usually those talks are about guys that are at the bottom of your roster that may or may not make it, may get cut. You get your first opportunity. But when you get a chance, they throw a name out like Logan Mankins, especially with the issues that we've had at guard so far this preseason, you got to jump on. I think it was a bold and very strong move by Jason Light, his first-year GM here in Tampa.
And says to the Buccaneer fans that we're not rebuilding. We want to win now. On third down, throw toward the goal line, and it's intercepted. Keith Lewis with the takeaway, picking off Colt McCoy.
The Bucs needed to make a play on defense, and they finally got one. Dipped into the well a little bit. Too many times here throwing the football in this game, and Kip Edwards, who was from a small little town not too far from Roanoke, Virginia, where I grew up in Lynchburg, gets the interception.
Bucs will take over on offense, trailing the Redskins with 8:35 to go before the half. Keith Lewis signed by the Bucs as a college free agent back in early May. He had started all 20 games he appeared in at Virginia Lynchburg. Had 11 interceptions there, and picking off McCoy in the end zone.
He was actually beat at the line of scrimmage here, Chris, but this ball was just a little bit behind his receiver there, and Aldrick Robinson, and Keith was able to go up and make a nice play in the end zone.
Jeff Demp's carries on first down from the 20. Helmet comes off. Mike Kafka, after coming in, Mike Glennon started, got a few first downs. Kafka 0 for 2. He's had a sack and lost a fumble.
Well, it's not been impressive. You're trying to play your way onto the practice squad. We've talked about his being eligible.
Not automatic.
Not automatic having a performance like this, but he's got a long way to go, and I think he's had a pretty decent spring for the Buccaneers, and they definitely need a third quarterback. You don't want Mike Glennon, who may have to play at some point during this year, having to take all those reps in practice.
Jeff Demp's slips one tackle but can't get out of the other. Brought down at the 20 by E.J. Biggers. And it'll bring up a third down in a hurry. Clock running, 7:45 and counting.
This Washington Redskins defense was very maligned last year. Started the year giving up play after play after play. I tell you though, they drafted Trent Murphy first round or second round out of Stanford to add to Ryan Kerrigan and Brian Orakpo. This defense so far in the preseason has been pretty impressive. You see it here tonight, how they're getting after this young offensive line of the Buccaneers.
On third down and 9, Kafka goes down. Second sack of the game that he's been involved in. Frank Curse getting the job done from Alabama A&M for the Redskins. Another punting situation for the Bucs.
Yeah, just they run a nice little game up there. You see the combination between the two tackles, and you got to pass those guys off between the guards, and center. And we just continue to struggle at those positions. Obviously, they're young, and seeing those complex games, that's a pretty complex game that they ran up there. But being able to pass that off is important in order to save your quarterback from getting hit.
Michael Kanan boots it. Nick Williams backing up at the 33. There's a flag down, and he is shoved back, knocked down around the 30-31 yard line. Thankfully, we have not seen the swarm of penalties that we saw through the first couple of weeks of the preseason. It was up even 50%, comparatively speaking, through last week around the league. Everybody playing in the NFL tonight.
During the kick, holding, receiving team number 35. That 10-yard penalty will be enforced from the end of the kick. First down.
Blake Seastrunk called for the infraction. It'll back up the Redskins. Jake Gruden at Washington with a 10-0 lead, and they have the football here in the second quarter. The copyright of this broadcast is owned by the NFL on behalf of its member clubs, including the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All rights to this broadcast are reserved, and any rebroadcast, recording, retransmission, or other use of this broadcast without the express written permission of the NFL is prohibited. Quentin Pointer, who is the backup nickelback, playing some corner tonight on first down. McCoy completes his 12th pass of the night. Chris Thompson sprinting down the sideline.
That was definitely a blown coverage of some sort. It looked like they were in 3 deep or man back there, and gets it out to Chris Thompson. He's just got acres of room out there to the outside. I got to imagine that one of those linebackers was supposed to assume him to the flat.
Nobody in the picture.
Yeah, nobody's even in the picture. And that's the thing you get. That's what happens when you get some of these younger guys that, you know, like I said, they have a lot going on today. There's the anguish of thinking about making this football team. There's the pressure of trying to do everything right. And sometimes you just forget to do your job, and I think that was the case right there.
Well, we know Jonathan Banks can help as the third corner with Werner and Jenkins, but after that, pass is caught. And inside the 45, Aldrick Robinson.
Yeah, you know what? With Jonathan, I mean, to me, he looks like a starter. He started 16 games last year, so I think you're all right there. But finding that fourth guy, you know, whether it's Keith Lewis, who's practice squad eligible,
or Pointer maybe,
or Pointer, who can play backup nickel. You know, Lovey and those guys were telling us before that they're only keeping one nickel back. So for a guy like Quentin Pointer, the more you can do, the better. If you can get some reps out of the corner, help you give yourself an opportunity to make this team better for him.
McCoy fell down but got the ball to Thompson for the first down on the ground. And Quentin Pointer from Nevada, Las Vegas, a free agent from Fort Myers, Florida, but played with the Rams. So he has some secondary NFL experience.
Yeah, and I think he had a pretty good camp. That battle. Well, we got to assume that Leonard Johnson has won the nickel starting spot. He's not playing at all tonight.
Where's Rashawn Melvin in all this?
Yeah, that's a good question. He's been hurt. He was hurt a lot last year, so you don't got a lot of good film on him. He looks the part, but you know, your number one ability is availability, and he hasn't been that so far his 2 years here in Tampa.
Nice work by the former Florida State Seminole, getting down inside the 35 of Tampa Bay. Chris Thompson, again, Alfred Morris and Roy Halou Jr. Your top two running backs when Washington kicks off the regular season. They start on the road against the Texans and their new head coach, Bill O'Brien in Houston.
That's an interesting battle there for that third running back spot between Chris Thompson and Silas Redd, who, if you guys remember, was one of the transfers from Penn State. He went to USC for his last 2 years. He subsequently got hurt and didn't have a great senior season, so went undrafted this year. But he's also on this roster and provides them with with another option at running back.
Silas Redd on that carry moves the chains for another Washington first down. Each team with 3 timeouts, 3:45 and counting here in the first half. The Redskins came in after a win against the Patriots and the Browns, and then losing to the Ravens in their preseason. And of course the Bucs started at Jacksonville, home with Miami, couple of losses, and then the big win against Buffalo. As Jay Gruden looks on with Silas Redd, the running back. He gets the carry. Plenty of running room over there.
And people and the talk around Washington is not so much anything other than, can Robert Griffin III have a kind of a breakout year in this offense, because he hasn't looked too great in the preseason. The following, the first 2 games that he played, he was I guess good enough, but that game last week against Baltimore was pretty bad if you watch the film.
Washington has 7 touchdown passes thrown in the preseason, none of them by Robert Griffin III.
Yeah, that first team offense on Washington hasn't scored a touchdown this entire preseason. They didn't. There was actually thought of them playing in the game tonight, but Jay Gruden squashed all that a couple days ago.
You know, you talk about what he's working with, a new offense with Jay Gruden. He's also, coming off the knee injury, mechanics that they're working on, and becoming more of a pocket passer, even with all of his athletic ability. You studied quarterbacks for a lot of years, all kinds. Those that throw from the pocket, those that throw on the run. What's your assessment of the way Jay Gruden will play Robert Griffin III?
Well, I think he'll keep the training wheels on him, I think, a little bit. And that's not an indictment on Robert, other than that there's some things that Robert definitely needs to work on. He has a tendency to want to hold the football and hitch and make second guess his decisions when the ball should be out of his hands. And Jay will help him with that.
2-minute warning. Redskins have a 10-0 lead here in Tampa Bay. Coming up at the half, an update on what's going on in your world. News Channel 8 with the latest news. Dan Lucas also with first half stats and highlights. Lovie Smith looking on. Keith Tandy with 6 tackles in the game. Number 37 of the secondary as the Bucs defense tries to hold Washington off here. First down, Redskins from the 21-yard line of the Bucs. Thompson carries, and a good tackle, throwing him down right around the line of scrimmage. Nate Askew making the stop.
Yeah, watch him shed this block right here, get off. Good use of the hands, although he didn't look very enthusiastic about blocking and getting that tackle for loss. That's the one thing the Bucs have been great at so far this preseason, getting tacklers in the backfield. Negative or lost yardage, or 0 or lost yardage plays goes a long way. We're trying to be a top defense in this league.
Second down 9. Bucs do not have a takeaway in this game after they roughed up Buffalo last week for a fumble and interception as Chris Thompson carries. Let's go back to Tandy. You talked about the corners. So backing up Deshaun Goldson and Mark Barron, and veteran Major Wright had that back injury earlier in the preseason, and Bradley McDougald also suffered an injury.
Yeah, Major Wright's been out for a long time, and I think they were really high on Bradley McDougald, and he hurt his MCL a couple weeks ago. So Keith Tandy, who can play both safety spots, is in his 3rd year. He had a kind of a breakout year for him last year. He had those 3 interceptions kind of in spot duty for Deshaun. I liked him. He's one of him and Leonard Johnson were 2 of the guys that affectionately called me Unc during my last year to make me feel even older than I really was. So I returned and called them nephews to make them feel like they're younger than they really are.
You're not that old. Silas Redd carries. Oh, and he gets the first down to the 10-yard line. It'll be 1st and goal. Keith Lewis eventually brought him down, but on 3rd down, that shouldn't happen no matter what defensive unit is in. And we have a timeout for Washington with 18 seconds. They'll have 2 more timeouts remaining at the half. The Bucs have all 3.
Washington.
But Jake Gruden's team has a 10-0 lead and is trying to get some more. You're watching Buccaneers preseason football on WFLA.
Correction, this is a full-time.
Buccaneers haven't done much on offense. The defense has held off Washington for the most part. A touchdown pass from Colt McCoy to Ryan Grant and a Kai Forbath field goal. But this will be the 11th play of this drive for Washington. They've run it 8 times, passed a couple, and that was a big 3rd down run. So they have a 1st and goal from the Buccaneer 10-yard line.
Yeah, I can't stress, Chris, how important it is for these young guys, these backups.
Larry English in
getting
there.
An opportunity here to show what they have. You know, they're dealing with some adversity here. Backed up on the 10-yard line. It's a chance to get a stop here.
Colt McCoy to throw underneath. Caught, but spun around at the 6-yard line as Nick Williams. And another timeout for the Redskins. They'll have 1 remaining.
You only get so many opportunities in live ball to play situational football, and this is one of them. They had the other opportunity when they got that that turnover down at the 2-yard line to play some red zone defense, and now we have another opportunity for these young guys to play some red zone defense.
How's my hair look? All right.
Your hair looks good. How's mine look?
Yours looks
sweating too much.
Yours looks fine. You don't have to worry about the heat and humidity.
You see that? You see that shine right there? Yeah. That's what I got to worry about. That glistening.
It's a good look. I'll call you Uncle now, right? Can you, Uncle? Don't call me nephew though. That wouldn't look right.
No, I'm
excited about the a week from Sunday though. The regular season opener that the Bucs will get the division champs from last year.
Yep. Cam
Newton, Lovie Smith already said, "Hey, look, I don't care the rib injury. We know he's going to play and give us his best." And a lot to look forward to.
Big challenge. That's a great Carolina defense last year, and the Bucs offense, it hasn't been really on track a lot this preseason. They definitely have his hands up.
In the air and intercepted in the end zone by Nate Askew, and he's bringing it out.
Talked about situational football, getting a stop down in the red zone. A huge play for this Bucs defense, taking at least 3 points off the board there. And hey, I can't fault Nate Askew for taking that out. 9 seconds left on the clock. Your offense hasn't done much. But Colt McCoy had his guy here originally, but a really good play by Danny Lansana effecting that pass. And then Nate Askew, Johnny on the spot right there for that catch. I don't think he was going to go all the way, but I like his initiative.
Yeah, go with it. Second interception when I mentioned no takeaways referring to fumbles. The Buccaneers lost a fumble, but last week they had 3 takeaways and an interception and a couple of fumble recoveries. 2 interceptions here to keep the Redskins from getting more points. Keith Lewis and then Nate Askew making their moments count to keep it a 10-0 game. Let's head down to the sideline. Dan Lucas is with head coach Lovie Smith.
All right, Coach, I was going to ask you about Danny Lansana's plays earlier in the game. He ends up helping you out here at the end of the half. Talk about this young man vying for a linebacker spot.
Made a lot of progress throughout the preseason training camp and all, and we wanted to get a long look at him, of course, tonight, and he's doing some good things.
Eric Lewis gets a pick in the back of the end zone, and you're looking at that position as well. Are those the kind of plays, can one play make a difference in a final game, in your opinion?
It helps. We told the guys to do something to make us put you on the team. Making big plays like that will at least make us take notice.
Coach, thank you. All right, Chris.
And at least for those two, defensively taking advantage of the opportunity. Keith Lewis, an end zone interception, and then moments ago, Nate Askew. But the Buccaneer offense, after just a couple of series for Mike Glennon, Mike Kafka hasn't done much. We've seen Bobby Rainey carry the football and Jeff Debs, but nothing on the board offensively, not even a field goal attempt for the Buccaneers. At the half, the Redskins lead 10-0. We have a news update and more stats and highlights. This game coming up. With Rodney Barber, Chris Myers here at Raymond James Stadium. Dan Lucas will head back to the field. Post-game interviews, and we'll have plenty of time after this one to get you ready for the regular season. Josh McCown, Mike Glennon played briefly. We haven't had a chance. You talked about the kicking battle. I know it was important to the Bucs to get Patrick Murray an opportunity. Connor Barth has done his part in the preseason and when it comes to lining up for field goals.
Yeah, we haven't seen much so far this first half from these reserves on offense. They got 15 total yards from scrimmage, and that's just not going to get it done. You don't really get an opportunity to get a look at guys when you're 0 for or 1 for 6 on third down or whatever they are. Lovey's got to be scratching his head a little bit, but there's been some positives too. Seeing the two interceptions, the takeaways, that's how this defense is going to be built. Taking the ball away, giving your offense an opportunity, and that's one encouraging sign so far this first half.
Have we seen enough with Larry English, Scott Solomon, and Stephen Means, 3 players battling for what is essentially 2 spots, with Saturday's roster cut to 53 and then the 10 practice.
Well, we haven't pointed them out yet, so we probably haven't seen enough. His defense is playing pretty stout against the run, but haven't had much pressure from either one of those guys yet. We'll get an opportunity to see that in this second half. Hopefully we'll be able to talk them up in that competition.
Michael Caine drives it into the end zone. Washington, which has Colt McCoy running the show, and he's gone all the way at quarterback. Mike Kafka came in and has been unimpressive, and I think it's a little bit disappointing when the guy's been with you in your system and has a chance in the final preseason game, whether it's with the Bucs or somewhere, to show what he's got. I mean, Kafka's been around the NFL a few years and camped with the Philadelphia Eagles. When you look at the 3rd string quarterback for Washington, even though he's thrown 2 interceptions, he's at least running an offense efficiently.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything from Mike Kafka so far tonight. Keep talking about him being practice squad eligible. We still got to prove that he's going to be the guy that's taking up that spot.
On first down, Silas Redd with some tough running yards, getting up over the 30 for a Washington first down. Only touchdown in the game was the Colt McCoy pass to Ryan Grant, the rookie receiver from Tulane, and a Kai Forbath field goal. And then the interceptions by Keith Lewis and Nate Askew kept Washington out of the end zone.
You saw Anthony Gator make that tackle right there. We pointed him out earlier in the game. He's playing corner. Past couple of weeks, he's been playing safety. He's down in the box right now, playing that third corner too.
Kip Edwards in the game as well in the secondary. McCoy to throw and drops. Nick Williams was in the clear. What's the, we assume, those of us who have not played professionally, Ron, the corner, safety, what's the big deal? If you're back there covering nickelback, you should be able to do that easily.
It's definitely a different deal. Playing out on the corner is it's a once in a lifetime experience, man. You got receivers out there that can run by you. It's really technique oriented. Playing in the slot, that nickel position I played for all those years, where Anthony Gator is going right now. That's like an alien world for a lot of people, and you can't just stick any person in there, any corner, to do it. It takes a lot of knowledge to play in there. You got to know what's going on around you, and there's a lot of space you got to be able to cover up.
Silas Redd covering a lot of ground into Buccaneer territory for a first down after a gain of 20.
Well, you see, we have been talking about this defensive front for the Buccaneers getting a lot of pressure and penetration, but first two big runs in the second half created some huge cutback lanes. Guys not in their lanes. The Redskins are finding some success right now, getting this third wide receiver on the field and taking another linebacker out of the box.
Ball is bobbled. McCoy retrieves it and falls forward for maybe a yard at the 48-yard line of Tampa Bay. Akeem Spence, second-year player in there. We've seen Larry English. You mentioned that Daquan Bowers and William Golston, their injuries when it comes time to make the roster decisions and get ready for opening Sunday. I mean, that's going to be a tough call.
I got to imagine that their injuries are not going to help them make this football team. You need guys that can play. Gerald McCoy, as good as he is, cannot play every single snap at 3 technique in an NFL football game, especially down here in Tampa. So we talked about it. One of our keys is survival. It's a different concept of it, but one of these guys has got to step up in case those injured guys aren't available week 1.
Danny Lanzana stepped up, kicked around with the Jets and the Packers, actually played in Hartford with Josh McCown in the United Football League. It looks like he's going to make this Buccaneer team and contribute in a reserve role. From midfield, it'll be third down and 11. Four-man rush, and they get to McCoy, Eventually brought down, falling across the 45. Larry English and Dane Fletcher.
There you go. We wanted to talk about these guys create some pressure on the quarterback in their opportunity. See Larry English, he's up here at the top of the screen. Just a straight rush around that tackle, and he missed him at first, but he really set up the sack there for Dane Fletcher. Larry English has been primarily a left end for this team so far. You get an opportunity over there at right end, and he makes an immediate impact.
2 sacks last week against Buffalo for English, signed in mid-August after San Diego released him. Waving everybody is Bobby Rainey for the fair catch at the 24-yard line. Buccaneers will get their first chance on offense here in the second half, trailing the Redskins 10-0. When you wake up in the morning with Rod and Gail, don't wait for weather and traffic. You'll get it first fast with Lee and Leslie. Weather and traffic on the 8s. Weekday mornings on News Channel 8 today on the 8s.
Look at that, Chris. Our director, Jimmy Lee Starling's brood right there, the third.
Family and friends enjoying the...
Make him famous, circle him.
Enjoying some of the concessions here at Raymond James. Jeff Dempson at running back. He gets the carry on first down, and there's a little bit of a hole. Knocked down across the 32-yard line. One of the better runs of the game for Demps. An 8-yard pickup. And we have a player slow to get up for Washington. Chris Neal was carted away in the first half with a knee injury. And Akeem Jordan, one of the linebackers for Washington, being tended to.
There's no foul on the play, as the block in question was legal.
Check on the injury and continue from Tampa Bay in a moment. Akeem Jordan being helped off the field. Redskins leading here 10-0, and after Jeff Demps 8-yard run out to the 32-yard line. Demps 9 carries, 25 yards for the Bucs.
That was the first carry that I've seen so far this preseason where you actually saw some of that speed, Chris. He gets downhill. He looks explosive. Almost if he would have made that one guy miss, that would have been a 70-yard home run there.
And again, as Demps looks like enough for the first down. Let's head down to the field. Dan Lucas has a cat. Wait a minute. Let's see, make sure. Oh, I saw an elbow, and a player is down. No flags yet. Sorted out. And it is a Tampa Bay first down. Let's check in with Dan Lucas.
All right, Chris. Michael Johnson, he's playing referee here. Penalty or no penalty? Where are you calling on that?
If it's a penalty, it needs to be on them.
Okay, very good. Michael, talk about coming here, half the starting defensive line, 2 new guys, 2 guys that have been here, but it's new for everyone. What are your impressions of this unit as it came together through the offseason and training camp?
We got a great, talented group of guys that work hard and just enjoy playing this game. And, we work hard together, push each other. Coach Smith, Coach Frazier, Coach Cullen, Coach Fair, they all push us to be our best, and we're going to put out a good product this year. So I'm excited to be down here and be a part of it.
We spoke earlier to one of your former Bengals teammates, Anthony Collins, who's now your Bucs teammate. He said, I was born in the spotlight. Is that how they do it up there?
Hey, I guess so. AC, he always keeps things like, fun got to be around all the time. So I'm glad he got an opportunity to come down here. And also my good buddy Clint McDonald. We started off in Cincinnati together. So it was good to bring some familiar faces down here with me, as well as made the transition a lot easier.
Coming here, it's a fresh start for you because I know people, they want the numbers from 2 years ago. You heard about that over and over. So what did you have to do to make sure you're in that position, and how do you feel about yourself individually heading into opening day that you are going to get back to that form?
I feel good. I played. I feel like I played good both years. I just had more sacks the year before, so I just got to continue to work, continue to get better, and they come in bunches. So it's not going to surprise me when I look up at the end of the year and I got a bunch of them in the sack column. So and it shouldn't surprise anybody else either. So I'm just looking forward to helping this team win ball games, because that's the column that we need to improve on the most is wins, and that's what I'm down here to do. So Look at that first, and then we'll look at mine after that.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. We'll see you opening day. All right, Chris.
And you heard from the official while Dan was talking to Michael Johnson on a late hit call after the catch, and we have a player still down on the sideline. Mike Kafka completed his first pass of the game, and then after an 18-yarder, another 8-yard gain, and then the penalty tacked on. Let's take a look.
This was actually a really good route by Louis Murphy. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. Working on Breland over there, who I was mentioning in the pregame, but this hit is just late, unnecessary. And
it was Akeem Davis who came across late. Murphy's in extreme pain, and Breland was the one who was holding and throwing him to the ground when he was out of bounds anyway.
And he went right for his back, and then just it was not ironic, but the play before that, he came up out of that tackle with Breland kind of limping on his ankle a little bit, and I thought to myself, you don't want this guy to get hurt. Louis Murphy, I think, has made this football team as that third or fourth receiver.
Absolutely, and looked like he was emerging as the third receiver, and then Robert Haran, the rookie, right behind him.
That's good to see him up and walking around. I'm not sure what that injury could be, but he went down pretty hard there after taking that shot.
After the penalty, 24-yard line of Washington. Attempts the running back, Lonnie Pryor the fullback. And nowhere for Jeff Demps. Just getting a little edgy out there.
Yes, it is. These guys again, vying for those roles, man. This is it's survival. We keep talking about it. I'll continue to bring that up. Guys are fighting for their chance to play in the NFL.
Solomon Patton has checked in at wide receiver, who has apparently won the return job. Former Florida Gator, the free agent. Jeff Demps, the running back here, on 2nd and 10. Blitz coming, pass released on target. Chris Owusu making the catch inside the 20, but it'll be third down.
Well, this is the Mike Kafka that we've been used to here in training camp. You've been following him. The quick release, the good decisions. His offense was on pause for most of the first half. When he's come out here in the second half, completed 3 quick passes. It's a good job of him recognizing that pressure and knew that his back wasn't going to be able to pick that up. Him and Chris Owusu on the same page there to make something out of that play.
And Louis Murphy is being taken to the locker room, injured on the late hit penalty. Demps, top of your screen, as a receiver. They need 3 yards. Pass is almost intercepted. It'll be 4th down. Richard Crawford was there to break up the pass that was thrown towards Solomon Patton.
Richard Crawford jumped on that ball, but I'm telling you what, he was almost a little bit early. If Kafka would have reloaded that, he had Jeff Demps running up the sideline wide open. But nice pass breakup, great anticipation by Crawford.
Well, at least Patrick Murray will get the field goal try of 35 yards. The free agent kicker battling Connor Barth.
He really drives the ball. We'll see it right here from this angle.
And he got it. The kicker and punter from Fordham. He's an honors graduate, learned to kick from his father, Aidan, a Gaelic football star from Ireland. He just made 3 in the NFL. Redskins with a 10-3 advantage. The Buccaneers on the board after the field goal, aided in a drive. Mike Kafka's first completions of this game, but a late hit penalty. Louis Murphy taken to the locker room. Dan Lucas will have an update for us as soon as possible. And Patrick Murray getting a chance to kick off. Washington 3 penalties for 35 yards. Back to receive for the Redskins is Chris Thompson. He shows the leg strength, sends Thompson to the back of the end zone. As Lovie Smith said right away when he noticed Patrick Murray, this guy deserves a chance to kick in the NFL somewhere. It might be here. Let's take a look at the GMC scoring drive. We are professional grade. And the field goal lapsed on a drive that Took almost 4 minutes.
Offense finally looked like an offense. Got some protection, did some good decisions, some really nice plays, catches by Louis Murphy. It's a good job by the Bucs offense, finally putting something on film, something they can gradable.
McCoy drops. Ted Bolser, the rookie tight end from Indiana, drafted in the 7th round. It'll be 2nd and 10. Well, certainly you hope that it's not serious on Louis Murphy. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of Robert Perron catching the football in this game. Russell Shepard, we know, the special teams player, who's a backup receiver as well. But if you want to use a lot of 3-wide receiver, certainly hope that.
Yeah, they're looking decidedly thin right now if Louis Murphy is hurt for next week. But we don't want to speculate on anything that's wrong with him.
McCoy throws to Seastrunk, and Lake Seastrunk is loose. The rookie from Baylor has a Redskin touchdown. 80 yards.
Well, that was bad by the Buck defense there. It was a screen, and it was a long developing screen. And it looked like they had it sniffed out from the get-go. The lineman had reacted with the pulling, with the offensive lineman. The defensive lineman had reacted with the offensive lineman. Watch these linemen pull out. They know a screen is coming. And you just got 2, 3. Anthony Gator on a bad angle here. 4 missed tackles, essentially. And a long touchdown. Lovey will not be happy with that. They have not done that all preseason. Give up in a big explosive play like that. And right after a score, it's the wrong time for this team to give up their first one of the year.
Kai Forbath out to try the extra point and make it a 17-3 Washington lead. They cover 80 yards in 2 plays. There is a flag down.
I think it's too many men on the field. Dane Fletcher was sprinting off the field just as that play went down. We talk about that running back competition in Washington.
There's no foul on the play for 12 men on the field, as it was the 11th man who was running off the field. The extra point is good.
That was a we don't want to hold up the game any longer penalty.
But we do have a Redskin touchdown. Lake Seastrunk going 80 yards for a 17-3 advantage. We'll be looking for the Audi player of the game and the Honda driver of the game on the Buccaneers side of things. But for that man, number 35, Lake Seastrunk, an explosive play in a crowded Redskin backfield behind Alfred Morris, Roy Halou Jr., Chris Thomas, and Silas Red, even Evan Royster.
Yeah, we had forgotten to mention Seastrunk. He played with, obviously, Robert Griffin III at Baylor. He liked him. He liked him even more right now.
Jeff Dempps. There's the speed of Dempps. All the way out to the 35-yard line. E.J. Biggers, who's been active on special teams, the former Buck, forcing him out of bounds in the GMC scoring drive. We are professional grade, and it was quick. 80 yards in 2 plays. The screen broke loose, giving Washington the 14-point lead.
And the battle of backups tonight, which is going on across the entire country in NFL stadiums. The Bucs, they're decidedly losing to Washington. They've looked better. Washington has their second, third string. We can't talk enough about the depth on your football team. You got to find some quality depth.
Jeff Dempps. There goes Dempps. He's in Redskin territory with a Tampa Bay first down, working his way through 19 yards.
This is Jeff Dempps looking like a running back and not a track star there, finding that cutback lane, then getting in some open space. If not for Breland there chasing across the defense there, I think he could have got that edge and had an explosive run himself.
12 rushes for 47 yards for Jeff Dempps. Lonnie Pryor is in at running back. 3 wide receivers. First down from the 48 of Washington. Robert Huron cannot hang on.
He had him not just by one step, but like 3 steps, and that's one of the benefits there of Robert Huron. He is a fast guy. He's not Jeff Dips fast, but he can run. That pump there got the safety out of the hole. All he had to do was secure this catch, and that's a tough catch. But it was one of the knocks of him coming out of college, because he was a running back. He's built like a running back. He's got real tough frames, a tough runner. But he didn't catch the ball well in his junior year. He came back, had better years as senior, but one of the reasons he dropped a little bit in the draft is his ability to catch the ball, his inability to catch the ball, I should say.
Chris Owusu catches that, but short of the first down. Robert Huron, drafted in the 6th round, one of those all-offensive players, playing the slot, played his college football at Wyoming.
That being said, I still think he's going to be the guy to be their third down, or their third receiver, come in on third down, obvious passing situations. He just has that toughness that Jason Light told me about. You see it in the way he practices and the way he prepares. I think he's definitely the guy that they envision being their jitterbug kind of player inside.
Jeff Depps hit hard, and we'll hear from the Bucs general manager Jason Light coming up in just a few moments, joining us live on the broadcast. Let's check in with Dan Lucas at a Florida hospital injury report.
Well, Chris, we saw Louis Murphy leave the field. It's a back injury, and his return is doubtful. So Louis Murphy out with a back injury.
Thanks, Dan, for staying on top of that, and the Bucs will watch that closely. Already with Charles Sims, the rookie running back who figured in their plans, injured for the first half of the season. 3 wide receivers. Robert Huron, the rookie, is in the slot to the right of Mike Kafka. Sideline throw was caught by Chris Owusu, and that should be good enough for the first down.
Much more impressed now with Mike Kafka in the second half. Finding that last step and letting the ball go with some assuredness in his delivery. This is very nice timing, working together there with Chris Owusu, who now obviously this game is really important to him. Louis Murphy is indeed not available for the beginning of the season next week.
Mike Kafka now 5 out of 9. Jeff Dempps goes nowhere.
Jeff Dempps getting some hard running in between the tackles here. You know, he's always talk about him being a fast guy. He's at the very least throwing his head in there, not being shy of contact. He's only 5'7", 200 pounds or so. He's doing the tough work right now.
Just over 4 minutes to go here in the third quarter. Owusu, top of your screen. 2 wide receivers to the right of the quarterback, Kafka. Throws that way and caught. Solomon Patton is going to have a... No. They're debating touchdown. All right, give it to him.
That was a nice delivery, but almost an interception for Washington. The corner missed it. Great concentration by Patton there. The corner flashed right in front of him, as you'll see here. Kafka with the pressure. Corner, bad judgment there, but the miss. Not stepping out of bounds, getting in for the touchdown over the pylon. Great play. He had an opportunity a couple weeks ago to make some catches, and he dropped him at the end of the football game. Showing right there that, hey, he's going to be the returner, but maybe could be a viable option at wideout as well.
And you can see how close it was down at the goal line. The official waiting, standing right there and making sure. And, of course, the scoring replay reviewed to confirm automatically. Interesting, if you'll notice on the extra point setup for the Bucs, Mike Glennon is coming out to hold. Michael Kanan, the punter and kickoff man, lining up to kick the extra point.
Yeah, you never know if Kanan has to kick in a game, which he can do. We saw right there.
And he just did. Touchdown toss, Mike Kafka to Solomon Patton, and it gets the Buccaneers to within 7. No preseason game for the Redskins and Bucs. Washington has led from the start, and the touchdown pass at 25 yards from Mike Kafka to Solomon Patton, making it a 17-10 game. Let's take a look at the GMC scoring drive. We are professional grade.
And that 25-yard catch to Patton has all been the work of Mike Kafka, though. He was 0 for whatever in the first half, but he's come back and completed his 6 of 8 on that drive for 77 yards. It's looking like the guy that they want to keep around now. I was kind of questioning it there in the first half.
And Marcus Arroyo, who's calling the plays for Jeff Tedford, who had the medical procedure, the quarterback coach for the offensive coordinator of the Bucs, finally getting his team in the end zone. As you said, a collective effort while Jeff Tedford is out, but somebody has to mark the signals into Kafka. Somebody might have got in his ear. Yeah, he's 6 out of 8 in the second half after starting 0 for 2 in the first half, in which the Bucs were kept out of the end zone. Jason Light will be joining us in the fourth quarter to chat live about the Bucs preseason and getting ready for the regular season. Blake Seastrunk, who had the 80-yard screen catch and carry touchdown, carries and is brought down by Dane Fletcher.
Still haven't seen Dane Fletcher long snap. I'm sure that's one of the situations that Lovey's going to try to get addressed here at some point in this second half. You know, we came in talking about kicking battle. It was interesting to see. Lovey had warned us that Michael Kanan was going to get a chance to kick that extra point. He showed some light there, man. And
also the possibility, you were thinking maybe a 2-point conversion that may come up here. McCoy's pass underneath. Seastrunk breaks one tackle and is run out of bounds around the 28-yard line. Actually stays in bounds. I'm sorry.
Talking about Danny Lansana all game, how well he's been. That was just a missed tackle. That should have been a 2-3 yard gain. You get these second, third year guys and that fatigue factor. I'm telling you, this part of the game, you know, you're 2 minutes left in the third quarter, 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter. These guys have played every single special team, getting all those snaps on defense. They're starting to run on fumes, and they still got a full quarter left.
And jobs are on the line, careers. 3rd and 3 for Colt McCoy. Pressure, he gets out of it, and he's on the move. Brought down, and a flag comes down as Anthony Gator wraps up Colt McCoy. But the flag came up from the other side of the field. The Bucs have not had a penalty that was accepted. They were called for a few, but Lovie Smith's team, and of course that year
First down. Hey, Rob.
he sat out.
The ruling on the field is an incomplete pass. Before the pass was thrown, holding, defense, number 58. That's a 5-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
No sooner than you say that, Chris.
Yes. And I don't know that the people here agree. We'd have to take another look at this. There were a few things going on in the play.
Oh, the first was the missed sack opportunity. You got to give credit to him for getting out of that, but there's no holding. That quarterback starts to scramble there. Receivers moving around. It's sometimes easy to kind of take a tug.
Chris Thompson carries on first down. I was saying that Lovie Smith, when he sat out for the year, I'm sorry, that was Seastrunk on the carry, and Lovie worked with the league kind of on a volunteer basis with officials. From a coach's point of view, would go up every few weeks to the league and go over some things, and obviously that has to help in enforcing. And he made it very clear, Rondé, to us that whatever the rules are with our players, we got to play by them. If they quit complaining about you can't hit here, you can't tackle there, play by the rules.
They're in the rule book for a reason, right? And the points of emphasis are there just because, you know, over the course of over the years, it's starting to let them slide. That contact after 5 yards, whatnot. Another missed tackle there by the Bucs. You can see that there's been an issue so far in this defense. It has been the missed tackles, whereas when the starters have been in, they've been very good at that, getting guys on the ground and not giving up these explosive type plays.
A 19-yard gain. Aldrick Robinson, reserve receiver, putting the Redskins in Buccaneer territory at the 48-yard line, where Washington will have a first down.
Aldrick Robinson has had quite a day here. His 4th reception already.
McCoy has thrown for 254 yards, a couple of touchdowns. and 2 interceptions. Blake Seastrom trying to find the sideline of the first down.
It's looked impressive, his couple of touches in this game.
Looks like he needs a breather. You made a good point, Roddy. You forget about nobody's really played complete games at this point, and some of these guys who are trying to make it in the NFL, this is it. They got to go from start to finish, whether it's special teams, defense, offense, whatever. They're out there.
And Robert Griffin helping his buddy there get his jersey back on. But yeah, so many snaps. It's like high school again, Chris. I mean, it's like when you played offense, defense, specialty. Every 1-2 guys did everything, and that's what these guys got to be feeling like right now.
Silas Red carries in the air and knocked out of bounds. No flag here. He was leaping in the air. Matthew Lasafilo with the hit.
Good job creating some penetration there, making this ball bounce. And running backs nowadays love to get up in the air and jump blockers or jump tacklers that like to go low. Sometimes you get up there, you're hanging around, you're going to pay the price.
Masafilo, the backup defensive lineman from Stanford, and the third quarter winding down. On the Volkswagen scoreboard, the Redskins 17, the Buccaneers 10. It's the Volkswagen turbocharged sales event. Visit VWDealer.com. Our third quarter stats brought to you by Hyundai, your Suncoast Hyundai dealers. Discover the completely redesigned 2015 Hyundai Sonata at your Suncoast Hyundai dealers today. Didn't you say your first car, Rondé, was a Hyundai?
Hyundai, my first 2 cars.
Must have been reliable. And
one of them I blew out the fan belt, the other one I wrecked. So
at least you got your mileage here as we begin the fourth quarter. And welcome Jason Light, general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to the booth with us as we wind down the final quarter of the 2014 preseason.
Finally.
Has it been fun for you? You've been busy lately. Nice week, by the way.
Yeah, it's been busy for all of us over there, that's for sure.
After this play, get your thoughts on the Logan Mankins deal and chatting with Richie Incognito. Silas Red carries. Looks like it's good enough for the first down. And we welcome Jason to the booth with Rondé and myself. Well, tell us how you pulled off the Logan Mankins deal.
A lot of teamwork. We cast our lines out to a lot of teams, talking about a lot of players at that position and other positions that we thought could help our team, and we got a few nibbles, and then we finally decided to pounce on it this week.
How did the Richie Incognito discussion enter into it all?
Well, Richie was an option, and he was a guy that we had talked about for quite a while, since June or even before, and it just so happened that it was the same week.
Is he still an option? I'm sorry.
Well, any player that we feel is a good player that is out there and available, we're going to consider an option.
Let me ask you how that meeting went, because I've known Richie. I've been friends with him through a mutual friend who we both share, and I know what he went through last year is going to hamper him getting back in the league. But how did the meeting go? Did you get out of him something positive? You say this guy could be a part of our team, or no?
We were impressed with Richie. He was remorseful of some of his actions, or his actions. He seemed very contrite, and we had a great meeting with him, and we actually, to be frank, we enjoyed it. It was it went well.
I wanted to ask about Jeff Tedford and what information you can tell us. We know he's gone through a medical procedure. He's not here now, but it went well from all reports. Is there any update, any new news?
Yeah, and number one is that he's everything's good. He's going to be back to 100%, good as new. You know, Lovey wants to play it safe. We don't want to rush him back, you know, sooner than we have to. But we do expect him to have a hand in our opening game week, our opening game with Carolina.
Let me ask you your confidence in a guy like Marcus Arroyo, who Lovey told us was getting some of the play calling duties today. Also mentioned that it would be some of the other guys kind of by committee. Can you trust a guy like Marcus Arroyo who doesn't have any experience to make play calls if Jeff isn't available next week?
Well, Marcus, we have faith in all of our coaches to begin with. I mean, that's a great staff that Lovey put together. But Marcus has been with Jeff. He knows how Jeff thinks. He's been with him for a long time. And Marcus has experience in these situations.
Zach Hocker missed the 39-yard field goal try. So the Redskins maintain a 7-point lead. The Bucs will take over on offense. We'll have more with Jason Light in just a moment. Rondé Barber and Jason Light, general manager of the Bucs, with us. Chris Myers here. There's 34-year-old Marcus Arroyo, quarterback coach and calling the plays with help from the staff for Jeff Tedford. And so we're assuming that Jeff Tedford, offensive coordinator, whether he's back physically or not, will be involved in the game planning for Carolina and the play calling.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that I know right now he's got his iPad fired up already. And then, you know, those coaches, they're 100 miles an hour all the time, and we just want to make sure we're careful, and Lovey's putting the governor on him.
And Lewis Murphy, you had an update for us. He left with a back injury.
Yeah, he had a lower back contusion, and so far, x-rays are negative. Things look, you know, we're hopeful for him.
You're counting pretty heavily on him now to be the fourth receiver or so, third or fourth guy.
He's in the mix right now. Yeah. There's a battle with, it's one of the competitions that we had going into tonight was that receiver core, how many we're going to keep, who they're going to be. I mean, we know for the most part, but him and Chris Owusu, they were both in the mix there. It's going to be interesting how it shakes out.
Who else on this team tonight have you noticed to say, hey, this guy could play for us this year? Is any one guy that stands out?
Well, the guy that just made that catch right there, he's had a pretty good night here.
Chris Owusu.
And Solomon Patton. Yeah. He's done some good things offensively. Didn't get as many chances as I was hoping, and we were hoping a punt returner tonight. But you know, he's had a solid showing here in the latter part of camp.
You know, Lovey said, I think it was week 1, we sat down and talked with him in the preseason. He said, if there's one major concern other than the offensive line, which you've addressed, congratulations, was punt returner. And Solomon, I think, has done a really good job this preseason earning a spot. Do you think he's earned that spot as that returner so far?
Well, he's so far it looks promising for him. I'll put it that way. Now, Lovey, anytime you have the returner Devin Hester on your team, as long as he had, you know, you get a taste for wanting somebody with explosive speed like that, and then everybody's going to look kind of ordinary. But Solomon's actually shown some spark here.
Well, let's talk Jeff Demps then, because I know originally your plan when I was sitting with you guys early in camp, preseason, you wanted Jeff Demps to turn into a guy that could do multiple things for you, and return kicks was one of those things. Where do you stand with that, with him?
Well, we still think Jeff has a future. It's, you know, whether it's this year or not, you know, that remains to be seen. We have some tough decisions to make tomorrow. You know, he's done some good things. He's still growing as a football player.
And Demps will get the carry. The overview of what some 50 new players since Lovie Smith stepped in, and you along as a GM, this is a kind of a new beginning, and Lovie Smith was talking to us beforehand that from his point of view, it's gone pretty well. I'm sure you have a checklist, Jason. I know it's about results, but where you wanted to be at this point in terms of personnel and the staff working together, can you update us on that?
Yeah, it's way, not that we had any, not that we weren't being optimistic, but it's way ahead of where we thought it was going to be at this point. The quality of players that we were able to get, especially with Logan now, and the staff, we're really excited, and we're going to stand pat with our you know, with our creed that we've been saying all along, that we're competing for a championship.
There we go. We just talked him up and he drops the ball.
That's what happened. We put the hex on Solomon Patton. Yeah, and this indicates that not necessarily rebuilding. Obviously, you're reshaping, but you're out to win now. The division, making the playoffs is the goal.
It definitely is a goal.
And right away.
So you bring in a guy, Logan Mankins. He started, I think, most of his career, you can correct me if I'm wrong, at left guard.
Correct.
Right? And O'Neal Cousins, who did not play tonight, was there. Has there been any thought into who would be
There's a fumble
that right
here.
guard?
We'll check Rondé before Jason answers. Looks like the Redskins on the Demps run and lost football. They're pointing as if they have it. And a reviewable play this year in terms of possession, so the official says no. Bucs keep the football, and it'll be 4th down.
Well, there's been a lot of good tonight, but there's been a lot of not so good too, and this is one of those plays right here. So you hate to see that.
Yeah, especially from a guy trying to earn a roster spot or his way onto this football team. But you go back to that question about who has the inside track, I guess is the right way to say, of playing that other guard spot. Is it O'Neal moving from left to right? Is it, Amame? Is it, is it Rashad Johnson, who you guys just brought in, who you got to look at tonight? Who can we look for next week?
Well, we've still got to sit down. Logan just got in late last night. He sat down with our coaches for a couple hours today, and he's still kind of, just getting his feet wet here. We've got it. The coaches are going to sit down and make that decision. Whether Logan said, "Hey, I'll play anywhere on that offensive line. I don't care. Let's just get out there and win."
Yep, talking to Evan Dietrich Smith, and he has a 2-year contract after this season. We'll have more with Jason Light in just a moment. Jason Light, general manager of the Bucs, joining us with Rondé Barber and Chris Myers. Influences from Don Shula, Bill Belichick, Andy Reid. How much did your New England connection have to do prior to pulling off this deal with Logan Mankins?
Well, I think it had quite a bit to do with it. Just, I have a relationship with Coach Belichick, and we're able to talk about a lot of things.
Pass caught by Ryan Grant. Did he stay in bounds? They're saying yes, he did. He had the touchdown catch in the first half from Colt McCoy. This is a 31-yard.
Yeah, Ryan Grant working on Keith Lewis down here, and this is a double move. He had him all the way. Really nice concentration there on that catch. Keith Lewis who had the interception earlier. Yeah. It's another guy, small school guy. You told me he was from Virginia Lynchburg, and I said, where in the heck is that? It's like it's right down from where you went to school, Rondé. How do you not know who he is?
McCoy has it. Throws underneath, and out of bounds is Ryan Grant. And along those lines, this is a very important game. I know fans say, hey, we're not seeing the starters, we're not seeing the stars, but for you, the scouting department, the guys in the front office, this is very valuable, the tape here and the players that you're going to have.
Well, yeah, and for the players, too, they're auditioning, not only for us for that last roster spot or the practice squad, but for, 31 other teams. But all games being played tonight, they get watched over and over and over for this is the game that the players at the bottom of the camp rosters play the most. So these are the players we'll be looking at bringing for workouts and possible practice squad spots later on.
Seastruck carries, and a flag comes in on the back end of the play.
You mentioned earlier about your time in New England. Your new player, director of player personnel, John Robinson, was also up there in New England.
Yeah.
Tell me about him, because he's been really instrumental in bringing a lot of these guys in so far this year.
No, he and I had an opportunity to work together for a long time. One of my most productive scouting trips I had was about 13 years ago. I went to Nichols State where he was a coach, and came back to the office and told Scott Pioli at the time, we need to hire this young guy as a scout. So we've had a long history together. I was able to bring him on here as my right-hand man, and very happy we did. And, our relationship together with Belichick led a little bit to the acquisition of Logan.
Ryan Grant on the catch. Speaking of working relationships, unique in that Lovie Smith hired here in Tampa Bay as the head coach before you came along as the general manager. Obviously, you two have to work well together. Explain how your chemistry is working, has worked, how you discussed that when you accepted the job.
Well, it couldn't be better. We're almost like brothers, and we work well together. We think alike, and I tell people, Lovie doesn't curse, he doesn't drink, he's at church every Sunday. I need to work on all three of those things, but yet we still get along very well.
Lake Seastruck Breaks a few tackles and run out of bounds eventually.
That's not the first time you've mentioned his name.
Yes,
I was going to say, perfect example of a guy that, you know, all 31 other teams will be taking a look at. They have so much depth at running back on their team.
Maybe even Jason Light and the Buccaneers when you think about some of the injuries in that situation. Mark Anthony ran him out. There's a guy, you know, comes in. He's had an active game tonight, too, battling in that secondary.
Yeah, we were active last week with the waiver claims and the trades, and, you know, we're getting a little bit of a head start on the activity that's going to happen in the next couple days.
This is your first time being in charge of that. Talk about your work last year with Steve Keim, who was a first-time GM in Arizona, getting yourself ready for this, I guess, madness of being a GM in the NFL. It's nonstop, huh?
It's nonstop, and last year prepared me more than any other place I've been, just because I saw how I was a first-hand witness. I was at the right hand of Steve, and he let me be there the whole time, that 5 bad things happen a day. So you just have to be prepared for those 5 bad things every day. And so if 4 happen, it's a great day. If 5 happen, it's still a good day.
And it was a terrific first year for Bruce Arians and Steve in Arizona in terms of running the show as Silas Red carries. And a little bit of the same formula. He went out, got a veteran quarterback and Carson Palmer back there, picked up some key players that filled some spots, built on the strength of players you had there so that you could contend right away and then also get the kind of team you wanted.
Yeah, and it also a lot of patience involved too. We had a lot of question marks at the offensive line position last year. In our case last year, it was the tackle position, both left and right, and you know, we managed to kind of work through it and eventually find players that were able to get us through the season, and Bruce had a really good offense there.
You mentioned that, you know, bringing in some of the guys. We brought in a lot of guys so far here. Obviously, the 3 big free agents on defense. And what's your philosophy that you've kind of worked out? I know everybody does it differently, but personally in your head, what's your philosophy of building a football team? Where do you start?
Well, you know, Lovey always says front to back, and I think that can be said for both offense and defense. He's talking mostly defense there, but I think on offense too. But you can never be comfortable with what you have. You can't be static. You have to always churn that roster, especially that bottom end.
Redskins knocking on the door, 1st and goal. Silas Red, the running back. Just over 4 minutes to play. Red carries and punches it in for Washington. A chance with the extra point to make it 24-10.
It's another long drive by this Redskins offense out here, Chris, and keep talking about this fatigue factor. These guys have been on the field all day long playing special teams. every snap on defense.
Wouldn't it be pretty cool if we put Gerald McCoy and Clint McDonald and Michael Johnson out there right now?
Just threw him in that last goal line stand.
Let's just see what happens.
Yes, everybody that wasn't watching is all of a sudden going to turn it on if you do that.
Talk about front to back. Gerald McCoy, a great starting point for any new head coach or GM when the Bucs kick off the regular season a week from Sunday here against the Carolina Panthers, defending champions of the division. Zach Hawker with that extra point. Jake Gruden of the Redskins with a 24-10 lead over the Bucs here in Tampa Bay. Checking the GMC scoring drive. We are professional grade. 78 yards, nearly 4.5 minutes. And Red punching it in from a yard out, giving Washington the 24-10 lead. Colt McCoy has gone the entire way at quarterback for Washington. Mike Lennon, a few series for the Bucs, and then Mike Kafka, who did not complete a pass in the first half, but came out in the second half and moved the Bucs downfield and into the end zone. Zach Hawker kicking off at Solomon Patton. Back to return, standing in the end zone. And Patton decides to down it, so the Bucs will take over at the 20-yard line with just over 4 minutes to go and all 3 timeouts. You're watching the Buccaneers Television Network. We'll check out our Audi player of the game and the Honda driver of the game in a bit. Bucs on offense with Jason Light, general manager of the Bucs. And of course, Saturday is the cutdown day to 53, or at least by that time. And now the 10-player practice squad. So a lot of work to be done. Can you take us through a little bit of the process here based on injuries and who you like and who's available, released by other teams?
Yeah, well, by Saturday at 4 o'clock, we have to have the roster pared down to 53. We'll probably do a lot of it tomorrow, if not all of it. I'm sure there may be a couple that we wait till on Saturday. And then once Sunday rolls around, by Sunday around noon, we have to have the practice squad set. And that's when we're able to start setting our practice squad of 10 players. So Sunday afternoon, we should have the initial roster set, at least for the time being. But it's not going to, there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things we can still do throughout the week.
And we have some players who are injured. We know about Charles Sims and the length that he might be out. You have a decision to make there, but guys like Goldston and Daquan Bowers also.
Yeah, and you know, we're hoping that they are available. We'll reassess those guys daily, but you know, you're always going to have to carry a few guys that aren't going to be available first 1 or 2 games.
Kafka to throw instead, pulls it down and runs with it. Slides across the 30 with a first down.
Jason, give me just give me an estimation of how you thought the preseason went this year. I mean, I know it looks like we're going to finish 1-3. The win-loss column obviously doesn't matter much, but how did you feel about your team this preseason?
Well, I thought defensively I was really, really pleased. Very excited about how that first team unit's playing, and then a lot of the second teamers too. Offense is, you know, it was a work in progress, and I thought it came together last week. This isn't a good indication of tonight of what our offense is going to be without the game plan, without our starters playing. But I thought it was starting to come together. And then now this week will be very key, inserting Logan in there and seeing how fast he can come to speed, get up to speed, which I'm very sure will be very quickly. But it's going to be a very big part of this offense, improving this offense.
And still decision with Lovie Smith and yourself and the staff, but it looks like 2 rookies starting, or at least a part of the offense with Mike Evans and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, a primary part of that offense on the opening Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely, and two definite weapons, legitimate weapons.
Good ones. Ask me about, talk to me about any surprises that you've had during camp. Guys that didn't really have an eye on, and all of a sudden they had good camps, and there's a probability they'll make the team. Anybody like that we can look at?
Kafka slides for the first down near midfield, taking us right to the 2-minute warning. We'll let you ponder that and answer that before we let you go. Jason Light is with us, and we'll continue. 2 minutes remaining here in the final preseason game of 2014. Arroyo going to work on the 2-minute offense here with Mike Kafka, who is 7 of 12, 86 yards, a touchdown pass, and ran for a first down there. Before we let Jason Light go, Rondé was asking about maybe surprises, training camp guys who have jumped out that maybe you thought, okay, we're just bringing him in, but he showed us he could stick.
Well, yeah, you know, and Rondé, you know as good as anybody, back when you're in OTAs and your 90-man rosters are set, and you know, that's a lot of players combined on NFL rosters, so there's not a lot of talent that's left out there to be signed. And when you're able to sign like a Javorsky Lane, a Lewis Murphy, who are out there looking for work during the 90-man roster period, and they end up playing the way they have, and they look like they're good shots of making the team now. And you know, we still haven't done that yet. We'll have to go through that tomorrow. But those are 2 guys that I'm proud of our scouting staff of, you know, doing their work, doing their homework, and identifying a couple players that could potentially help us.
Yeah, Javorsky Lane is a really good example, because I remember earlier in the preseason you were talking to me personally about keeping 4 tight ends, and you know, whether it would be between the 4th tight end or your fullback Javorsky, and obviously he's had a great preseason.
He really has. He's really turned into a hammer too. He's not just been that finesse, big 280-pound finesse running back. He's turned into a hammer.
His versatility, I would assume, also helped allow you to make that trade to give up a tight end, Tim Wright, who may have figured in your plans.
Sure did.
Cameron Brate also as a practice squad eligible player at that position, as Jeff Depps carries, and we thank Jason Light. Thanks for your help throughout the preseasons. Good luck with everything. All right, we appreciate it. Thanks for the information. I know the fans appreciate it too.
I appreciate it. It's been great meeting you guys and working with you.
Have fun. We look forward to the regular season opener.
Let me hang out at the facility all day, every day.
Yeah, he has something to do with the great history of the organization.
Well, I think he's secretly been hired to make sure that I'm you know, keeping on top of things. So you're doing a heck of a job doing that. I appreciate it.
Well, all right, thanks, Jason. Good job by you and the staff. And we look forward to opening day as Kafka goes down. Thank you very much. And the Redskins defense, Clifton Gathers with a stop gives it to the offense to take over on downs.
Jason's one of the good ones, Chris. They got a good man in here working this deal. They have spent a lot of time over there, and he's been very welcoming.
Well, you certainly appreciate and he's got a job to do, and some things have to be protected within the organization, but the cooperation so that we can do our job with the fans and the local media in terms of how the operation is run and how decisions are made.
Yeah, that aside, and also just I think they're him and his scouting department, John Robinson. They've done a great job, I think, putting together a pretty good team here, at least the first line of guys.
Here's our Honda driver of the game. Get a great deal on a new car you'll love at the Honda clearance event.
Yeah, this was the big Demps run. He had a couple of explosive plays here. He saw a couple of completions to Lewis Murphy, and then the Chris Owusu catch, and of course the pressure in his face. He makes the throw over top of the corner, and Solomon Patton does all the rest of the work on his own for the touchdown. And that was the drive where we started talking about Kafka really coming into his own, and he was 0 for 2 before that. Completed 7 passes on that drive and got them in the end zone for the first time.
And our Audi player of the game, Mike Kafka, the quarterback, completing the touchdown pass as the Bucs under Lovie Smith in his first preseason as the head coach here in Tampa Bay go to 1-3. The Redskins will finish up 3-1 with Jay Gruden, the Arena League star, and Gruden comes back to Tampa Bay and picks up a victory here. And Raymond James coaching as Lovie says hello to Robert Griffin III, who will be in action the regular season for Washington again, opening a week from Sunday against Houston, and Lovie Smith and the Bucs. That 4:25 kick a week from Sunday. Yeah, don't have a ticket already, you'll want to be part of the scene. As the Carolina Panthers, the defending division champions, and Cam Newton come to town. Colt McCoy, Josh McCown chatting, and McCoy went the entire game as the backup quarterback behind Robert Griffin III and Kirk Cousins. Josh McCown getting a breather tonight, but he'll be out there Sunday, a week from Sunday, against Carolina. We'll have more of the postgame show in a moment.